The call from my mother lit up my phone screen like a bomb waiting to detonate. After 5 long years of silence, there it was, her name, still saved as Mom, staring back at me. Despite everything, every betrayal, every wound, my heart skipped a beat. My finger hovered over the decline button, the familiar weight of resentment urging me to ignore it. But some flicker of curiosity or unresolved pain, made me answer. Ingrid, sweetheart, her voice came through unchanged, dripping with that same sugary sweetness that once convinced me she cared. I'm Ingrid Wright, and the last time I heard that voice, she was explaining, with cold certainty, why my brother, King, deserved our family estate more than I did. He's the man of the family now, she'd said, as if that justified everything in 2023, as if my worth could be dismissed with such outdated logic. What do you want? I asked, my voice steady, though my grip on my coffee mug tightened until my knuckles turned white. Can't a mother just check on her daughter? She replied, her tone light, followed by a pause that felt calculated. I've been thinking about you, Ingrid. I laughed, the sound harsh, echoing in my quiet office. 5 years of silence, 5 years of not thinking about me, and now, suddenly, I'm on her mind? The door to my office cracked open and Rosalind, my best friend and marketing director, poked her head in. One look at my face, and she knew something was wrong. She slipped inside, closing the door softly behind her, her eyes filled with concern. Actually, darling, Mom continued, oblivious to my growing anger, I need to discuss something important with you. About the future. The future? That was rich, coming from the woman who had shattered my past. I'm running a company, Mom, I said, my voice sharp, cutting through her pretense. I'm busy. She sounded genuinely surprised. A company? That's wonderful. What kind of? I cut her off, meeting Rosalind's worried gaze across my desk. Whatever you need, asked King. He got the house, the money, everything. I'm sure he'd be happy to help. The silence on the other end was deafening, speaking volumes. King isn't in a position to help right now, she admitted, her voice quieter now. Of course he wasn't. I'd heard the rumors, King's gambling, his failed business ventures, the fortune he'd been handed on a silver platter dissolving like sugar in a rainstorm. That's not my problem, I said, my voice ice cold, even as my hands trembled with suppressed rage. You made your choice 5 years ago. Live with it. The words exploded out of me, raw and unfiltered. Ingrid, please, I'm your mother, she pleaded. Are you? I shot back, my voice rising. Because mothers don't do what you did. They don't look their daughter in the eye and tell her she's worth less than her brother. They don't throw away 28 years of a relationship over some outdated notion of a family legacy. Rosalind moved closer, placing a steadying hand on my shoulder. I hadn't realized I'd stood up, my body trembling with the weight of years of hurt. I did what I thought was best at the time, Mom's voice wavered, but I wasn't buying it. Things are different now. I need you. The realization hit me like a slap across the face. You need money, I said, my voice flat. That's what this is about, isn't it? King burned through everything, and now you're scrambling. Her silence confirmed it. Well, let me tell you something, Mom, I continued, my tone unwavering. That company you were so surprised about? I built it from nothing. No inheritance, no help, not even a single word of encouragement from my own mother. Just blood, sweat, and a burning desire to prove you wrong. Sweetheart, please, she whispered, but I wasn't done. I'm not finished, I said, my voice rising with a mix of fury and triumph. You want to talk about the future? Fine. Come to my office next Thursday at 2 p.m. I'll show you exactly what your daughter became without you. I hung up before she could respond, collapsing back into my chair. The phone clattered onto my desk, its screen finally dark. Holy, Rosalind whispered, her eyes wide. Are you okay? I wasn't okay. I was trembling with rage, with hurt, with a twisted sort of satisfaction. She has some nerve, doesn't she? I said, my voice shaking. 5 years of nothing, and now she needs money. Rosalind perched on the edge of my desk, her expression a mix of concern and determination. What are you planning, Ingrid? I looked up at her, a smile spreading across my face, though it didn't reach my eyes. Remember that retirement home we toured last month for the corporate philanthropy program? The really depressing one on the edge of town. Her eyes widened. What about it? I think I just found its newest resident, I said, pulling up my calendar and marking next Thursday's appointment. It's time to show my dear mother exactly what karma looks like. Rosalind's expression shifted, a flicker of worry crossing her face. Ingrid, don't try to talk me out of this, I interrupted, standing and walking to the window overlooking the city skyline. My city, my success, my revenge. She took everything from me once. Now it's my turn to take something from her. Her dignity? No. I turned back to face Rosalind, my resolve hardening. Her power. She doesn't get to waltz back into my life expecting handouts, not after what she did. Next Thursday, I vowed she would learn exactly who her daughter had become, not despite her actions, but because of them. The sun was setting behind me, casting long shadows across my office floor. In 1 week, I would face my mother again, and this time, I'd be the one holding all the cards. The thought should have made me feel guilty, but all I felt was a cold, satisfying certainty that justice was finally within reach. The ballroom erupted in applause as my name echoed through the speakers, and the Business Innovation Award goes to Ingrid Wright. I rose from my seat, smoothing down my black designer dress, my heart pounding with a mix of pride and vindication. 5 years of relentless work had led to this moment, this glittering recognition of everything I'd built from nothing. As I walked to the stage, I caught glimpses of familiar faces in the crowd, competitors who had dismissed me, investors who had turned me down, all now watching as I accepted one of the industry's highest honors. Thank you, I said, gripping the Crystal Award tightly, its weight grounding me. When I started this company, I had nothing but determination and spite. A ripple of laughter spread through the audience, but my smile was sharp. Sometimes, the best motivation comes from people telling you what you can't do. My eyes found Tinsley, my business partner, who raised her champagne glass with a knowing smile. She'd been there from the beginning, back when I was working out of a cramped apartment with secondhand furniture and maxed-out credit cards, pouring every ounce of myself into proving my mother wrong. After the ceremony, Tinsley cornered me at the bar, her eyes glinting with mischief. Spite and determination, huh? She signaled the bartender for 2 martinis. Speaking of spite, how are you holding up about Thursday? I shrugged, though my stomach churned at the thought of the upcoming meeting with my mother. I'm fine, I said, but the lie tasted bitter. The confrontation had been consuming my thoughts all week, a storm brewing just beneath the surface. Liar, Tinsley said, handing me a martini. Clint's been asking about you, by the way. Says you've been ignoring his calls. I groaned. Clint Armstrong, successful real estate developer and persistent suitor, had been trying to get me to commit to something more than casual for months. I don't have time for relationship drama right now, I said, taking a long sip of my drink. Tinsley's voice softened, her usual teasing edge gone. Ingrid, you can't keep using work as a shield forever. Watch me, I replied, though her words lingered, unsettling me. My phone buzzed, pulling me from the moment, a text from King. Heard about your award. Mom's worried sick about Thursday. What are you planning? I showed Tinsley the screen, my jaw tightening. Look who's suddenly concerned. Are you going to respond? She asked. I deleted the message without a second thought. He had 5 years to be concerned, 5 years to step up when he saw what he was doing to our mother's finances. Instead, he gambled away everything our father built. A photographer approached, interrupting us. Ms. Wright, could we get a photo with your award? I posed, smiled, played the part of the successful businesswoman everyone expected to see. The flash went off, capturing the moment for posterity, me in my expensive dress, holding the Crystal Award, looking every bit the success story. Later that night, as my car service drove me home through the glittering city, another text came through, this time from Rosalind. Your story is trending on the business news sites. Self-made success. How Ingrid Wright built an empire from nothing. You're officially a big deal, boss. I smiled despite myself. The empire I'd built wasn't just about money, it was about proving something to my mother, to King, to myself. Every contract won, every deal closed, Every award received was another brick in the wall between who I used to be and who I'd become. My phone buzzed again, Clint. Congratulations, beautiful. Let me take you to dinner to celebrate. I stared at the message, Tinsley's words about using work as a shield echoing in my mind. Maybe she was right, but now wasn't the time to let my guard down. Thanks, but busy week ahead, I texted back. His response came quickly. You can't avoid real connections forever, Ingrid. Some of us actually care about you, not just what you've achieved. The words hit harder than I expected, a quiet truth piercing through my armor. I turned off my phone and pressed my forehead against the cool car window, watching the city lights blur past. Back in my penthouse apartment, I placed the award on my shelf next to the others I'd accumulated over the years. Each one represented a victory, a step further from the girl who had been left with nothing. But tonight, they felt hollow, their shine dimmed by the weight of what was coming. I walked to my home office and pulled out the folder I'd prepared for Thursday. Inside were bank statements showing the steady decline of the family estate under King's reckless management, photos of the retirement home, a stark, utilitarian place, and a one-way ticket to a new life my mother never wanted. Justice served cold and calculated. My phone lit up with a final message from Rosalind. Just remember, revenge might feel good, but it won't heal what's broken. Love you, girl. Get some sleep. I closed the folder and poured myself a nightcap, the amber liquid catching the light from my window. Tomorrow, I had meetings, contracts to review, an empire to run. But in my mind, I was already in Thursday's confrontation, finally saying all the things I'd held back for 5 years. The award on my shelf gleamed, sending crystal reflections dancing across the wall. Success was supposed to be the best revenge, but somehow it wasn't enough. Not yet. Thursday would change that, or at least, that's what I kept telling myself as I stared out at the city I'd conquered, feeling more alone than ever. Thursday arrived with the weight of an executioner's axe, heavy and unrelenting. I stood at my office window, watching the street below, waiting for my mother to arrive. The folder sat on my desk like a loaded gun, its contents meticulously prepared to deliver the final blow. My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Your 2 o'clock is here, Ms. Wright. I smoothed my blazer, steeling myself. Send her up. The door opened, and there she was. 5 years had aged her more than I expected. Her hair was completely gray now, her once designer clothes replaced by department store bargains. But her eyes, those manipulative, calculating eyes, hadn't changed a bit. Ingrid, she said, stepping forward, arms outstretched for a hug I didn't offer. Your office is impressive. Have a seat, Mom, I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk, maintaining the formal distance between us. She sat, clutching her worn purse like a lifeline. I saw the news about your award, she began, her voice tentative. I always knew you had potential. Stop, I held up my hand, cutting through her flattery. Let's not pretend you believed in me. We both know why you're here. Her face fell, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of vulnerability. I made mistakes, she admitted, her voice trembling. But I'm still your mother. Surely that counts for something. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Rosalind rushed in, slightly out of breath. Sorry to interrupt, but King is in the lobby, demanding to come up. My mother's face lit up, a spark of hope igniting. You should let him join us. We could be a family again. No, I said sharply, pressing the intercom. Security, please escort my brother out of the building. Ingrid. Mom stood, outraged. He's your brother. Is he? I snapped at Dorito. System. I snapped back, my voice sharp with betrayal. Because last time I checked, brothers don't steal their sister's inheritance and gamble it away. I pulled out the folder, my hands steady despite the storm of emotions within me. Speaking of which, let's talk about why you're really here. Her face fell as I spread out the documents, bank statements, property assessments, newspaper clippings detailing King's failed ventures, all laid bare like evidence in a courtroom. How did you get these? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Money buys excellent investigators, I replied, leaning forward, my gaze unrelenting. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? That king lost everything, that you're facing foreclosure on your condo. Rosalind lingered by the door, watching the scene unfold with quiet intensity. My mother's hands shook as she picked up one of the bank statements, her composure unraveling. "We can fix this," she pleaded, her voice desperate. "Together, as a family. You're successful now, Ingrid. You could help." I laughed, the sound bitter, echoing in the sterile office. "Like you helped me? By leaving me with nothing while King destroyed everything Dad built." Her eyes welled with tears. "I thought he would take care of both of us. He promised." "And you believed him," I said, my voice cutting like a blade, "because he was the son, the man of the family. While you were believing in him, do you know what I was doing? Working 18-hour days, living on ramen noodles, building something from nothing, because my own mother decided I wasn't worth investing in." My phone buzzed, Clint again. I ignored it, my focus razor sharp. "Please," Mom whispered, her voice breaking. "I have nowhere else to go." I pulled out the retirement home brochure, sliding it across the desk. "Actually, you do." Her face crumpled as she realized what she was looking at, a stark, utilitarian facility, a far cry from the life she'd known. "You ain't be serious," she murmured, stunned. I pressed on, relentless. One-way ticket, a small but clean room, 3 meals a day. I handed her the admission papers, my voice cold and steady. "More than you gave me, Mom." Rosalind stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. "Ingrid, maybe," "No," I cut her off, my resolve like steel. "This is happening." My mother stood, her anger finally breaking through her facade of remorse. "I raised you better than this," she said, her voice trembling with defiance. I met her gaze, unyielding. "You raised me to be exactly this, calculated, ruthless, focused on what I deserve. Remember those lessons, Mom? The ones you taught me while explaining why King deserved everything and I deserved nothing." A commotion outside interrupted us, King's voice, loud and slurred, arguing with security. Mom moved toward the sound, but I blocked her path. "Sign the papers," I said quietly, my tone final. "Or leave with nothing. Your choice." She stared at me, tears streaming down her face, her voice barely a whisper. "What happened to my little girl?" "She grew up," I said, my voice steady, pushing the papers closer. "She learned. She succeeded. Despite you, not because of you." The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of hurt and betrayal. Finally, with shaking hands, she picked up the pen. "You'll regret this," she said as she signed, her voice thick with emotion. "Someday, you'll understand what family really means." "I already do," I said, gathering the signed papers. "That's why I'm doing this." As security escorted her out, Rosalind touched my arm gently. "Are you okay?" I wasn't okay. I was triumphant and heartbroken, powerful and empty all at once. Watching my mother walk away, knowing I'd finally taken control of our relationship, I felt a crushing weight of finality settle over me. "I need a drink," I said, my voice hollow. "A strong one." The sun was setting outside my window, casting long shadows across the office where I'd just severed the last ties to my family. Tomorrow, I'd deal with the consequences. Tonight, I just needed to breathe. The bar was nearly empty at 4 p.m., just the way I liked it. Rosalind sat beside me, nursing a gin and tonic while I worked on my second whiskey neat, the amber liquid swirling in my glass like my tangled thoughts. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, my voice low, raw with the day's events. She didn't even apologize. Not really. Just made excuses about King's promises. Rosalind pulled out her phone, showing me a social media post, King at a casino, dated last week, throwing chips around like confetti, oblivious to the wreckage he'd left behind. "He's still at it," she said, shaking her head. "Of course he is." I downed the rest of my drink, the burn doing little to dull the ache. "Dad's probably rolling in his grave." A familiar voice made me turn. Clint stood there, his perfectly tailored suit doing nothing to hide the concern etched on his face. "Rosalind texted me," he said, shooting my friend a betrayed look. She shrugged, unapologetic. "You needed someone who isn't caught up in all this family drama." I don't need anyone, I muttered, but I didn't protest when he sat down beside me, ordering a scotch with a quiet confidence. Rough day? He asked, his tone gentle. You could say that, I replied, my voice heavy. I just sentenced my mother to a retirement home and had security throw my brother out of my building. Pretty standard Thursday. His hand found mine on the bar, warm and steady. Want to talk about it? Not really, I said, but the whiskey had other ideas, loosening the words I'd kept locked inside. You know what she said? That I'd regret this, that I'd understand what family means someday. Clint's thumb traced circles on my palm, grounding me. And what do you think family means? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a text from Tinsley. Your brother's at the office again. Says he won't leave until he talks to you. Damn it, I muttered, standing up, wobbling slightly from the drinks and the weight of it all. I need to handle this. You need to sit down, Clint said firmly. You're in no state to handle anything. I'm fine, I insisted, grabbing my purse. Rosalind, you coming? She looked between me and Clint, her expression torn. Actually, I think you should let him drive you. Traitor. But I didn't argue when Clint led me to his car, his hand steady on my elbow. The drive to my office was quiet, the city lights blurring past like my thoughts. Clint broke the silence, his voice soft but pointed. You know, pushing everyone away won't make the pain stop. It's worked so far, I shot back, staring out the window. Built an empire, didn't I? At what cost? He asked, his words slicing through me. I didn't answer. We pulled up to my building, where King was arguing with the security guard, looking disheveled, expensive suit wrinkled, eyes wild with desperation. Ingrid, he spotted me getting out of the car, his voice raw. What did you do to Mom? Gave her exactly what she deserves, I said, straightening my spine, grateful for Clint's steady presence behind me. Just like she did to me. She's crying in her condo, packing up her things, he said, stepping closer, reeking of alcohol and regret. How could you? My voice rose, sharp and unyielding. How could I? How could you gamble away everything Dad built? How could you watch Mom give you everything and not even try to take care of her? I made mistakes, he shouted, his voice breaking. No, I cut him off, my words like daggers. Mistakes are what normal people make. You systematically destroyed our family's legacy while Mom cheered you on. And now you both want me to fix it? Security moved forward, but King held up his hands, his expression pleading. I just want to talk, Ingrid. Please. Remember when we were kids? When we promised to always look out for each other. That was before you let Mom tear our family apart, I said, the whiskey fueling my fury. Before you stood there silently while she told me I was worth less than you. I was wrong, he said, his voice cracking, his eyes bloodshot. We were both wrong. But this, sending Mom to that place, it won't fix anything. Clint stepped forward, his tone calm but firm. Maybe we should take this conversation somewhere private. There's nothing to discuss, I said, turning to the security guard. If he comes back, call the police. Ingrid, wait. King called after me as I walked into the building, his voice desperate. What about forgiveness? What about family? I stopped, turning slowly, my heart pounding. Family? I said, my voice trembling with years of suppressed pain. Family is what I built after you and Mom destroyed mine. Family is Rosalind, who believes in me. Tinsley, who helped me build something real. Even Clint, I glanced at him, seeing something soft and steady in his eyes, who shows up when I need someone. King's shoulders slumped, his voice raw. We can fix this, Ingrid. No, we can't, I said, stepping into the elevator. Some things, once broken, stay broken. Go home, King. Take care of Mom while you still can. The retirement home van comes on Monday. As the elevator carried me up, King's voice faded, but his words lingered, heavy and unresolved. Clint stood beside me, silent but present. You okay? He asked finally, his voice a quiet anchor. No, I admitted, leaning against the cool metal wall, the weight of the day pressing down on me. But I will be. He studied me, his gaze searching. Want company? I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months, seeing the man who stayed despite my walls. Yeah, I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper. I think I do. The elevator continued its climb, carrying me away from the wreckage of my old family and towards something else, something that felt almost like hope, fragile but real. Tinsley slammed her coffee mug down on my desk, her eyes blazing with frustration. "You're doing what?" "Ingrid, you can't seriously be considering dinner with Clint tonight, not with everything else going on." "Why not?" I said, scrolling through emails, trying to anchor myself in routine. "Life goes on, right?" Tinsley's expression softened, but her voice was firm. "Life goes on? 3 days ago, you sentenced your mother to a retirement home, your brother's having a meltdown, and now you're going on dates." I finally looked up, meeting her gaze. "What do you want me to do, Tinsley? Sit at home and cry about my broken family?" "No," she said, perching on the edge of my desk. "I want you to process what's happening instead of," my phone buzzed, cutting her off, Mom's number, again. I declined the call, my jaw tightening. "That's the 3rd time today," I said, my voice flat. "She's getting desperate." "Can you blame her?" Tinsley asked, her tone gentler now. "Monday's coming fast." Before I could respond, my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Ms. Wright, there's a situation in the lobby. Your mother, with some reporters. Something about elder abuse and family abandonment." My blood ran cold. She wouldn't dare. But when I pulled up the lobby security feed on my computer, there she was, surrounded by local news cameras, tears streaming down her face, spinning a story of betrayal and neglect. That manipulative, I grabbed my phone, dialing Roslyn. "Get PR down there now. Full damage control." "Already on it," Roslyn replied, her voice tense. "But Ingrid, this looks bad. Really bad." I watched the scene unfold on my screen, Mom playing the devastated mother to perfection, abandoned by her successful daughter in her time of need. "Should we call security?" Tinsley asked, her voice tight. "No," I said, standing, straightening my jacket. "That's exactly what she wants, more drama for the cameras." I was already moving, anger propelling me forward, my heels clicking against the floor like a metronome of fury. The elevator ride felt endless, each second fueling my resolve. When the doors opened to the lobby, camera flashes nearly blinded me. There she is. Mom's voice carried across the space, dripping with calculated sorrow. My daughter, who built her empire on the backs of her family. I walked straight toward her, my steps deliberate, my voice loud enough for the microphones to catch. "Let's talk about family, shall we, Mom?" I said evenly, my tone cutting through the chaos. "Should we start with how you disinherited me? Or how you watched my brother gamble away our father's legacy?" Her face faltered, her carefully crafted script unraveling. A reporter stepped forward, his voice eager. "Ms. Wright, your mother claims you're forcing her into a substandard retirement facility." I smiled coldly, my composure unshakable. "The same facility where our company sponsors senior care programs? The one that costs more per month than most people's mortgages? That facility." Mom's tears dried up remarkably fast, her performance faltering under scrutiny. "Ingrid, please," she said, her voice breaking. "No, Mom," I replied, stepping closer, addressing the cameras directly. "You wanted to do this publicly, so let's do it publicly. 5 years ago, this woman gave my entire inheritance to my brother because, in her words, he's the man of the family. Now that he's lost everything, she expects me to bail them out." The reporter's interest shifted, one of them already fact-checking my claims on his phone. "That's not," Mom started, but I wasn't finished. "The retirement home isn't punishment," I said, my voice steady as steel. "It's more than she gave me when she left me with nothing. More than she deserves after watching my brother destroy everything our father built." "Cut the cameras," one reporter muttered, the story they'd come for evaporating before their eyes. Mom stood there, her performance crumbling as her plan backfired spectacularly. "I only wanted to talk to you," she said, her voice small, defeated. "No, you wanted to manipulate me again," I replied, stepping closer, my words sharp and deliberate. "But I'm not that little girl anymore, Mom. Your tears don't work on me now." The reporters packed up, their interest in the poor abandoned mother narrative fading as the truth emerged. I leaned in, my voice low but firm. "Monday morning, 9 a.m. The van will be at your condo." Try another stunt like this, and I'll let everyone know exactly how you and King spent Dad's money." She flinched, her face a mask of defeat. As security escorted her out, my phone buzzed. Clint saw the news cruise. "Still on for dinner?" I looked at Tinsley, who had followed me down, her expression soft. "Go," she said quietly. "You've earned a break from all this." "Thanks," I said, texting Clint a quick yes. I watched through the lobby window as my mother's car pulled away, her latest manipulation in tatters. Monday still loomed ahead, the day I'd close this chapter of my life for good. "You okay?" Tinsley asked, her voice gentle. "No," I admitted, turning away from the windows, my heart heavy but resolute. "But I will be. Eventually." The lobby slowly returned to normal, but something had shifted inside me. My mother's desperate play had backfired, leaving her with nothing but the truth she'd tried so hard to hide. And me? I had dinner plans with someone who saw me for who I was, not what I could give him. Maybe that was progress. Or maybe it was just another way to avoid dealing with Monday. Either way, I'd take it. Sunday night found me in my office, staring at the retirement home paperwork, the weight of tomorrow's finality pressing down on me. My stomach churned with a mix of satisfaction and dread, the conflicting emotions swirling like the whiskey I downed earlier. Clint's voice startled me from the doorway, warm and steady, holding takeout bags. "Thought you might need dinner," he said, his presence a quiet comfort. "How did you get past security?" He smiled, setting out containers of Thai food. "Rosalind called. Said you've been holed up here all weekend. Spying on me now?" I teased, clearing space on my desk for the food. "Caring about you," he corrected, his eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made my heart skip. "Want to talk about tomorrow?" I picked up my chopsticks, deflecting. "Not really." "Okay," he said, opening his container, his tone light but probing. "Then let's talk about us. Clint, 3 dinners, 2 lunches, and now I'm bringing you late-night comfort food." He met my gaze, unflinching. "What are we doing, Ingrid?" Before I could answer, the office door burst open. King stumbled in, clearly drunk, his eyes wild with desperation. "Security." I stood, but he held up his hands, steadying himself against the wall. "Wait. Please. I need to show you something." Clint moved between us, protective. "You need to leave." "No, look," King said, fumbling with his phone, pulling up a video. Despite myself, I looked. It was an old home video, Christmas morning, maybe 15 years ago. Dad was still alive, filming as King, and I opened presents, laughing, happy, whole. "That's what we used to be," King's voice cracked, thick with emotion. "Before money and inheritance and all this mess." "You're drunk," I said flatly, my heart hardening against the nostalgia. "Go home." "Mom's been crying for days," he said, pocketing the phone. "She barely eats." "Is that what you wanted?" My voice rose, sharp and unyielding. What I wanted? I wanted a family that valued me. I wanted a mother who saw me as equal to her precious son. I wanted a brother who stood up for me instead of taking everything. He slumped into a chair, his voice raw. I know, and I'm sorry. I screwed up. I screwed everything up." Clint touched my arm, his voice calm. "Want me to call security?" I shook my head, studying my brother. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. "Why are you really here, King?" I asked, my tone cold. "Because," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair, "I found this today." He pulled out an envelope, handing it to me with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter from Dad, dated just before he died. My breath caught as I read, "My dearest children, the estate isn't just money and property. It's the love your mother and I built together. Share it. Protect it. Take care of each other." My voice wavered, barely audible. "Where did you get this?" "Mom's condo," King said, his eyes filling with tears. "She's been packing and we failed him, didn't we?" "Both of us." "No," I said, crumpling the letter, my voice shaking with anger. "You failed him. You and Mom." Clint's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "Ingrid, maybe don't. One letter doesn't erase what you did," I said, cutting him off, my gaze locked on King. "What you both did." "I know," King said, standing unsteadily. "But tomorrow, That retirement home. It's not what Dad would have wanted. Dad's not here, I snapped, the words bitter on my tongue. Because he trusted you both to do the right thing, and you didn't. King's voice hardened, his eyes narrowing. What's your excuse, Ingrid? What's your justification for doing the wrong thing now? The question hit me like a physical blow, sharp and searing. Clint's grip tightened under the desk, grounding me. Get out, I whispered, my voice breaking. Before I call security. King walked to the door, then turned, his words heavy with accusation. You know what's funny? You think you're nothing like Mom, but this revenge thing, this need to hurt people who hurt you, that's all her. The door closed behind him, leaving his words hanging in the air like smoke. Clint's voice was quiet, steady. He's wrong. You're nothing like her. Am I? I asked, staring at the retirement home papers, then at Dad's crumpled letter. Because right now, I'm not so sure. The difference is, Clint said, gathering the takeout containers, you can still choose differently. Tomorrow's coming, whether you're ready or not. The question is, who do you want to be when it gets here? I stared out at the city lights, Dad's words echoing in my mind, take care of each other. We'd all failed at that, hadn't we? Mom, King, me, we'd turned love into a weapon, family into a battlefield. I need to think, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Clint nodded, his eyes warm with understanding. Want company while you think. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw what I'd been avoiding, someone who chose to stay, even when things got messy. Yeah, I said softly, my heart opening just a fraction. I think I do. We sat together in the quiet office, the ghost of my father's words floating between us, while Monday crept closer and choices waited to be made. Monday morning arrived with the weight of an avalanche, heavy and unstoppable. I stood outside Mom's condo building, watching the retirement home van pull up, its engine idling like a ticking clock. Clint waited in his car nearby, his presence a quiet reassurance, having insisted on being here, just in case. The driver approached me, his tone professional. Ms. Wright, we're ready when you are. I checked my watch, 8:55 a.m. Give me a minute, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. The building's lobby was eerily quiet as I rode the elevator to the 12th floor. Mom's door was open, boxes stacked neatly in the hallway, a testament to the life she was leaving behind. Inside, she sat on a bare mattress, a small suitcase beside her, her eyes red from crying. It's time, I said, my voice flat, devoid of warmth. She looked up, her expression a mix of resignation and defiance. So, this is really happening? You signed the papers, I said, picking up her suitcase, my movements mechanical. Because you gave me no choice. She stood, anger flaring in her eyes. Just like I have no choice now. There are always choices, Mom, I said, my voice cutting through the tension. You taught me that, remember? When you chose King over me. A noise from the hallway made us both turn. King stood there, surprisingly sober, his posture weary but determined. What are you doing here? I demanded, my heart racing. I came to help Mom move, he said, stepping into the room, and to give you this. He held out an envelope, his hand steady despite his haggard appearance. What is it? I asked, my tone wary. Open it, he said simply. Inside was a check, a substantial one. I looked up, confused, my fingers tightening around the paper. It's everything I have left, King said quietly, his voice raw with sincerity. My savings, my investments. Everything. For Mom's care. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. King, no. Yes, he said, turning to her, his eyes resolute. I did this. I took the inheritance and wasted it. Let me try to fix it. I stared at the check, then at my brother, my mind reeling. This doesn't change anything, I said, my voice colder than I intended. Doesn't it? He asked, meeting my gaze, unflinching. You wanted revenge, Ingrid. You wanted me to feel what you felt when you lost everything. Well, now I do. I didn't ask for this, I said, my throat tightening. No, but Dad would have, he replied, pulling out the letter from last night, smoothed and refolded. Take care of each other, remember? The retirement home driver appeared in the doorway, his tone urgent. Ms. Wright, we need to get moving. I looked at Mom, really looked at her. She seemed smaller, more fragile, the weight of her choices etched into every line on her face. The angry teenager in me reveled in her defeat, but another part, quieter, more like Dad, whispered that this wasn't justice, it was just more pain. "Wait," I said to the driver, then turned to Mom, my voice softer, uncertain. "If I change my mind about this, what would you do differently?" Her eyes widened, a flicker of hope igniting. "Everything," she said, stepping toward me, her voice trembling but earnest. "I'd apologize, really apologize, for choosing sides, for making you feel less than, for not being the mother you deserved." "And?" I prompted, my heart pounding. "And I'd try to earn back your trust," she said, glancing at King, her voice steadying. "Not with excuses or manipulation, but with actions." We both would. I pulled out my phone, dialing quickly. "Roslyn, remember that downtown condo project Clint's company is developing? The one with the senior living floor? See if there's a unit available." Mom's eyes widened, her breath catching. "Ingrid." "This isn't forgiveness," I cut her off, my voice firm but less sharp. "Not yet. But maybe it's a start." King moved to hug me, but I stepped back, holding up a hand. "Don't. This is conditional. You both need to prove you mean what you say. Family therapy, both of you." And King, I held up the check. "This goes into a Trust One control for Mom's care and living expenses. No more gambling." They nodded, hope replacing desperation in their eyes. "And Mom," I met her gaze, unflinching, "if you ever try to pit your children against each other again, the retirement home will look like a luxury resort compared to what comes next." She flinched but nodded, her voice barely audible. "I understand." The driver cleared his throat awkwardly, and I waved him away, turning back to my family, this broken, messy thing we'd become. "Dad's letter was right," I said, my voice softening. "We're supposed to take care of each other. But that means all of us equally. No favorites, no manipulation, no more games." Through the window, I saw Clint getting out of his car, his concern evident even from 12 stories up. He'd been right too. I could choose differently, be different. "The condo won't be ready for a few weeks," I told Mom, my tone measured. "Until then, you can stay in my guest room, if you respect my boundaries." She nodded, tears flowing freely now, her voice thick with gratitude. King looked like he might cry too, his hands clutching his sobriety chip tightly. "Don't make me regret this," I warned them both as we left the condo, Mom to my car, King to help with the boxes. Something shifted inside me, not healing, not yet, but the beginning of something new, something that honored Dad's memory better than revenge ever could. Clint met us at the curb, his eyes searching mine. "Everything okay?" I looked at my strange, damaged family, then back at him, my heart aching but open. "No," I said honestly, "but maybe someday it will be." Dr. Patterson leaned back in her chair, her gaze steady, watching me carefully. "And how does that make you feel, Ingrid?" I glanced at Mom and King, sitting across the room, their faces tense but hopeful. This was our 10th family therapy session, and somehow it still felt like pulling teeth, each word a struggle to unearth years of buried pain. Honestly, I shifted in my seat, the leather creaking softly. I'm tired. Tired of being angry, tired of holding on to the past. The therapist smiled, her eyes warm with encouragement. "That's progress. Last session, you couldn't even admit to being angry." Mom cleared her throat, pulling an envelope from her purse. "I have something to say," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. She handed it to me, her hands steady despite the weight of the moment. Inside was a deed to the family estate. I frowned, confused. "I don't understand," I said, my voice tight. "King lost this in the bankruptcy." "No," King spoke up, his tone quiet but firm. "I sold it before the bankruptcy to a holding company owned by Mom, with the money you gave her for living expenses." My anger flared, hot and sharp. "Let me finish," Mom said, touching my arm gently. "I bought it back because it never should have been divided in the first place. Your father wanted it shared." She pulled out another document, her hands steady now. "This puts the estate in both your names equally." Dr. Patterson nodded approvingly, her voice calm. "That's a significant gesture, Yvonne." "It's not enough," Mom continued, her eyes glistening, "but it's a start. A real one this time. I stared at the papers, emotions warring inside me, anger, relief, hope, all tangled together. I don't need this anymore, I said, my voice softer than I expected. I built my own life. We know, King said, his tone gentle, almost reverent. That's why we think you should decide what happens to it. The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Through the window, I could see Clint waiting in his car, my steady support through all these sessions, his presence a quiet promise. Sell it, I said finally, my voice steady, resolute. Use the money to start a foundation in Dad's name for families torn apart by inheritance disputes. Mom's eyes filled with tears, her voice breaking. That's perfect. But I held up a hand, my tone firm. I want to be clear about something. This doesn't fix everything. Trust takes time. We know, they said in unison, their voices soft but sincere. Dr. Patterson smiled, her notepad resting on her lap. This feels like a good place to end today's session. Any final thoughts? I stood, gathering my things, my heart lighter than it had been in years. Just one, Mom. Dinner at my place tonight. Clint's cooking. Her face lit up, a genuine smile breaking through. I'd love that. Outside, Clint opened his car door as I approached, his expression warm. How'd it go? Better than expected, I said, showing him the papers, my voice catching. Want to help me start a foundation? He pulled me close, his arms steady around me. I want to help you do anything. I kissed him quickly, my heart racing. Careful what you wish for, I teased. I'm still not easy to love. Good thing I like a challenge, he said, his grin infectious. From the clinic steps, I watched Mom and King walk to their separate cars. We weren't fixed. Maybe we never would be, completely, but we were trying, really trying. My phone buzzed with a text from Roslyn. Reminder, your motivational speech at the Business Women's Conference is tomorrow. Topic, building success from adversity. I smiled, typing back, change of topic. New title, the true meaning of legacy. You sure? She replied immediately. Looking at my mother getting into her car, at my brother checking his 1-year sobriety chip, at Clint waiting patiently beside me, I'd never been more sure. Legacy isn't about money or property, I said aloud, my voice steady, certain. It's about choices. Clint teased, his tone light, deep thoughts for a Thursday afternoon. I'm serious, I said, turning to face him, my heart open, vulnerable. I almost let revenge become my legacy. Almost became exactly what I hated. But you didn't, he said, his hand squeezing mine. No, I replied, watching Mom's car pull away, a weight lifting from my chest. I chose differently. My phone buzzed again, a photo from Tinsley, showing the foundation paperwork already in progress. Below it, she'd written, your dad would be proud. Maybe he would be, I thought, not of how we'd torn ourselves apart, but of how we were trying to put things back together. Not perfectly, not completely, but honestly. Ready to go? Clint asked, his voice warm, inviting. I took one last look at the therapy clinic, then at the papers in my hand, the deed that had once meant everything to me, now feeling light, insignificant compared to the weight of growth and healing. Yeah, I said, taking his hand, my heart steady for the first time in years. I'm ready. As we drove away, I thought about tomorrow's speech, about telling a room full of ambitious women that true success isn't measured in dollars or revenge served cold, but in the courage to choose healing over hurt, growth over grudges. Mom would be in the audience, so would King, and for the first time, I was glad they'd be there, not because I'd proved them wrong, but because we were all finally learning to be right. You're smiling, Clint noted, his voice soft, observant. Just thinking, I replied, my gaze drifting to the horizon, about how sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. He squeezed my hand as we drove toward home, toward dinner with my mother, toward tomorrow's speech, toward a future built on choices rather than consequences. And for once, that felt like enough. Please feel free to comment below if you liked this. Remember to like and subscribers for more.